Hello, 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 and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. Berrada said something in the recent staff meeting, which I'm quite surprised he said. We'll just say it shows worst case scenario. We've got some reports saying that the Victor Osimhen to United deal was apparently 95% done. United have agreed to pay his release cost, this and that, although I'm not too familiar with the source of information, but there's been a lot of links to Osimhen. Free signings, players that United are targeting in the summer to sign on a free. Mason Mount, interest from Inter Milan. Rasmus Højlund, United's plan to sell him. A couple updates on our search and plan to bring in a striker, and more. So we're going to be rounding up all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, and updates today in today's live show. So big up everybody tuning in. I hope you do enjoy today's show, and make sure you get involved in the chat down below. But I read this and I was really surprised by what I was reading. At Monday's meeting, it was mentioned that the cost and saving associated with measures has been calculated assuming Manchester United qualify for the Europa League within the next 4 years. So you're telling me Manchester United, when they're sort of making their calculations for their future and their plans for the future, are like, well, we're going to assume in the next 4 years we will qualify for the Europa League. Does that not concern you? I guess in business you've got to do a worst case scenario, and worst case scenario is it takes us 3 years to get back in the Europa League and we're going to be a mid-table team for the next 3 years. We're planning for worst case scenario. But that worries me that they're saying, how can we run this club if we are a mid-table club for the next 3 seasons? That's what they're working out. We did a video yesterday and all the cost cutting, all the staff sacking, all the no lunches, this, no that. We are planning and basically getting a workforce for a mid-table club that maybe in 3-4 years' time gets Europa League, because that's how we're planning financially. And that worries me a bit. The costs and savings associated have been calculated assuming that United qualify for the Europa League in the next 4 years. I mean, we could win the Europa League, we could be in the Champions League next season. Next season, we could come second in the league and we could be in the Champions League. Don't think that's going to happen, but that worries me. That worries me. It's like, so we can run as a mid-table club financially. Like, the lack of ambition, and I guess you just have to calculate to be on the safe side. But I don't like that. I just can't believe in a meeting that was said, in case we don't qualify for the Europa League in the next 4 years. Or in case it takes 4 years to qualify for the Europa League, sorry. Like, that worries me. Like, that seriously worries me. Now, I will say the source that says that Victor Osimhen wants to join United apparently is a very reliable source of information, people are saying online, which has kind of surprised me. But Berrada's essentially told staff, you're going to lose your jobs because we don't expect to be in the Europa for 4 years. That is essentially what's happened. They're saying you're losing your job because we think it's going to take 4 years before we're back in Europa. That is the message there from Manchester United, from the execs, from those at the top. And that's incredibly worrying. Incredibly, incredibly worrying. Do you know what I mean? I mean, who knows? Someone said he meant for each year. What do you mean each year? At Monday's meeting, it was mentioned that cost and savings, blah, 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 within the next 4 years. Well, I'm not sure what you meant by each year. But I just don't like that. Ineos and the execs not reading the room, atmosphere already at rock bottom, and they keep digging deeper. Yeah, I get that Ineos have got to make unpopular decisions and sort of basically save us from the financial horrors that the Glazers have left us in. But I don't like it. I just don't like the way that this club is being run. Every time we hear a story about this club, it's negative. I really don't like it. Now, I don't want to go on and on for ages about the club, how it's being run. We did a bit of a rant yesterday. I do want to talk about transfer news and all of that as well. But they're assuming Europa League qualification every season. At Monday's meeting, it was mentioned that the costs and savings associated with the measure have been calculated assuming Man United qualify for the Europa League but it says within the next 4 years. It doesn't say for each of the next 4 years. It's saying within the next 4 years. Which says to me, if we qualify for the Europa League within the next 4 years. Am I reading it wrong, or are you guys reading it wrong? Who knows as well. We need Ahmad back, yeah. I mean, that'd be nice as well. Alice, as I understand, they are saying they have made a budget that means we only need to qualify for Europa to be fine. They are not saying we couldn't do even better. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case. Yeah, maybe I've read that wrong there. So I don't know, but it just, for me, I get that, getting in the Champions League, I don't expect us to be in the Champions League next year or the year after, to be honest. So I guess when you're budgeting, you've just got to assume we're going to be the Europa League club for the next 4 years. But as long, and I say this, as long as we are in the Europa League and no lower, I can take it if there's progress to show within the next season we will qualify for the Champions League. Man United need to be a Champions League club. Man United don't even need to be a top 4 club or a top 5 club to be in the Champions League. Man United need to be a top 2 club. We need to be in a title race. But for me, Europa League, bare minimum. Bare minimum. If you don't get Europa League, what the hell is going on? That is the bare minimum. Champions League is what we should aim for. And when we're back in the Champions League, we need to be aiming to be competitive in the Champions League and be at the top. But the standards of this club have fallen, where it's like, all right, worst case scenario, best case scenario, we've budgeted so we're in the Europa League. We are becoming a Europa League team, and this is Manchester United, and this worries me. And obviously with time, hopefully we get back in the Champions League and hopefully we become a Champions League team again. But we are sitting here right now as fans hoping we qualify for the Europa League this season. Like, I'm thinking if we have a bad season, let's win the FA Cup so we qualify for the Europa League. We shouldn't be hoping we qualify for the Europa League. It should be a given that we qualify for the Europa League, and it should be a given that a club the size of Manchester United qualify for the Champions League. But sadly, it's not. Sadly, it's not. And it does feel like it feels like we keep going through these 3-year cycles, but every 3-year cycle we go through, this 3-year rebuild, where every manager comes in, it's a 3-year rebuild to become a title-winning team again. It's a 3-year rebuild to become a title-winning team again. But every time someone comes into Manchester United, it feels like we take a step back, and it feels like that 3-year rebuild now becomes a 4-year rebuild, which now becomes a 5-year rebuild, and all of a sudden we're in 10+ year rebuild now, 12 years. Yeah. Thanks for the super chat, Red Baron. Would you go on paddock if invited? Of course I would. Someone said you've been a Europa League club for 12 years, really. I mean, we have been in the Champions League, but we've not been competitive in the Champions League. What is the furthest we've gone in the Champions League? Was it a quarter-final? I think the furthest we've gone in the Champions League since Sir Alex retired is a quarter-final. I don't think we've got to any semi-finals. Man United Champions League. I'm thinking, did Ollie get us to a quarter-final? I feel like we got knocked out by Barcelona in a quarter-final. Yeah, since. We haven't made a semi-final of the Champions League since Sir Alex retired, right? You must be quarter-final, Moyes. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, that is embarrassing. That basically makes us the Europa League side. Like, we've at least get to a semi-final. Furthest was quarter-final, Bayern 2014 and Barca 2019. I remember Ollie. I feel like Ollie. Was it Ollie that had us against Barca? I feel like because we beat PSG, yeah. And then knocked out. That's mad. You've qualified for Europe 6 times in 12 years. For Champions League, yeah. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. But I want to talk about transfers. I want to talk about rumours. So, it was said, according to Nigerian sources, that Victor Osimhen to Manchester United is 95% done. Amarin's side have agreed to pay his 75 million release clause, which is, I believe, just over £60 million. Then we're also getting news and information coming out after this that Victor Osimhen wants to join United. There's then people going all around Twitter posting a video of United Tray telling Victor Osimhen to join United. But again, this source is then saying that Victor Osimhen wants to join Manchester United. Now, I have no idea who this source of information is or if they're reliable, but they do have 1.7 million followers, which means they must be a somewhat decent journalist if they've got 1.7 million followers. And people are saying that this is a tier 1 source of information. So we're being told that Victor Osimhen to United is 95% done. Victor Osimhen wants to join United, but United have agreed to pay the release clause. Now, I believe that Victor Osimhen wants to join United. I believe that. I believe this story, that Victor Osimhen wants to join Manchester United. Apparently, he's a Manchester United fan and he dreams of playing in the Premier League. I believe the player wants United. And I believe he'll leave Galatasaray at the end of the season with the hope of going to United. What I don't believe is that United have agreed to pay his release clause. I don't know, with the finances that we've got, we don't know where our league finish will be and how much money we're going to have in the summer. that United would have agreed to pay that sum of money just yet. I think that we need to spend big on an established striker signing, and that's where the budget's going to go in the summer. But I will say, I don't believe that United would have gone out there and already agreed that they're going to play Osimhen's release clause just yet. I think they're looking at Delap, they're looking at Gyökeres. Maybe they have agreed they're going to play Osimhen's release clause because striker is a priority. He's an experienced striker. But I look at it and I think surely they'll probably wait until closer to the time to then be like, we're going to pay that. Okay, I think, maybe they do pay it in the summer. Maybe they've agreed internally they're going to pay that release clause. But I don't know if it's a bit early for them to say that when it comes to budgeting as well. For me, I'd love Victor Osimhen. I'd love Cunha. 60 million on Cunha, 60 million on Victor Osimhen, 120 million, and Cunha, Osimhen, Ahmad sort of rebuilds the attack. Then another midfielder in the pivot, so then we can put Bruno in the 10 role for a little bit of depth there. Some wing backs and a good centre back because Leach is out injured. Yeah, I'd like Osimhen at United. He's not my first pick for striker because I do worry that we're not going to give him the service he needs to thrive. But we need an experienced striker. We need a player that can play in the front line, that can score goals, that can run in behind, that can hold up the ball, that can use his power. We need experience, and that's what he is as well. Osimhen's surely an option, especially if Gyökeres is more keen on Champions League club. Apparently, Gyökeres wants to play for Champions League club, whereas Osimhen, obviously, he's played for Galatasaray the last year. He just wants to be in one of the top 5 leagues again, particularly the Premier League is what's being said as well. I think Osimhen, I'd like him. He's not my first choice, but I would definitely like him. To say no to him when we've got Rasmus Højlund playing up top would be quite silly. Apparently, he wanted 500k a week to go to Chelsea. I don't know if he wanted 500k a week. I feel like he's not on that much money at Galatasaray. Osimhen wages. He's on 160k a week. So we could give him 180k a week salary. That's not too bad, is it? Yeah. Someone said, Alice, with the way Ineos are running the club, do you think they'll sell Garnacho or Maynard to be transfer budget? I think Garnacho is going to go in the summer. I know that might sound reactionary, but I have a feeling Garnacho is going to go in the summer to Atleti or somewhere. I reckon they'll cash in 60 million on Garnacho in the summer because he's not been particularly impressive this season. My big worry, though, is we've brought in Amorim and Garnacho doesn't suit his system. Maynard doesn't suit his system. Euro arguably would be better in a back 4 than a back 5. And they're the 3 players in August we said we were going to build around. Maynard, Garnacho, Euro. We've now got a manager in that won't get the best out of them with the football he plays. Euro's probably the most adaptable. Maynard's got talent to be adapted, and you'd assume that Garnacho's talent to be adapted. But we might sell them for better fits for the system. And, you've got to look at that and say, well, we brought these youngsters in to be the future and now we're going to sell them, which means if Amorim fails and we get another manager that plays a 4-3-3, we'll be wanting Garnacho back. We'll be wanting Maynard back. Now, I don't think Maynard will go anywhere. He's had injury issues, and I think United rate him highly. Ineos want him to be the face of the rebuild. Euro's obviously not going to go anywhere, but I do think Garnacho could go in the summer. I actually have quite a strong feeling that he will go in the summer. I don't think he's happy anymore. He's not fully in favour with Amorim. The system doesn't get the best out of him. He's got interest from Atletico Madrid and Napoli. I don't think Garnacho, and I think the reason I don't think Garnacho is happy as he was, is because that the stick and the online hate gets to Garnacho online. That he reads too much into it. And yeah, I wouldn't be 100% shocked, to be honest, if Garnacho left. I think he'd get 60 million for Garnacho, 40 million from. I think we could easily get 50 million for Rashford, but we'll get 40 million, maybe 30 million for Anthony. And, we get a lot of money there to rebuild in Cunha and Osimhen and improve the attack as well. But the thing about United is we sell players. We buy new players to replace the players we sell, thinking finally we've upgraded. And then the new players become just as poor. It's like every time we bring in players and new signings, after a couple of seasons, we want them out. It's like this whole, we'll get rid of Højlund, bring in Osimhen, great. That should put us in a better position. But I feel like every rebuild we've got worse. We've gone from having Cavani and Ronaldo to Weghorst and Højlund. The rebuild has to be spot on. And that's why I want someone like an Osimhen or a Cunha that's proven. Because we've gone from Cavani and Ronaldo to Weghorst and Højlund and Xerxes. That's where we've gone in terms of rebuilding this club. So we need to make sure that we go out for a big and experienced striker in the summer for sure. Someone says we have to be careful not to sell off certain promising young talents who we could absolutely regret losing. Yeah, that's the one thing. If we do sack Amorim in 2 years and go back to a 4-3-3 manager, we might look at it and think, why do we sell Garnacho if he's balling out for Atletico? Why do we sell Mado if he's balling out for Chelsea, for example? Also, very likely Garnacho being pushed out. Can't blame him if he's keen to leave. Well, they tried to push Garnacho out in winter. If it wasn't for Rashford and Antony going and there being no options in the market, they were trying to push Garnacho out in the winter window, which is why Garnacho had talks with Chelsea, which is why Garnacho had also had talks with Napoli. Because why is Garnacho not going to talk to Napoli and Chelsea if the club are forcing him out? We know that Marcus Rashford was forced out. They'll claim it as he wasn't performing in training, but everybody behind the scenes knows it wasn't about training performances. It was a financial move from Ineos to force Rashford out, and it's probably the best decision for United and Rashford for a change of environment. But they are forcing Rashford out. They will force Garnacho out. I think because they're looking at it, young player, winger, PSR profit. I think Garnacho will be forced out. I do, and maybe that's negative, and maybe you'll think I'm chatting shit, but I think Garnacho could go in the summer. Unless Garnacho all of a sudden scores 10 goals in his next 10 games and shows something bloody incredible, I think Ineos will be willing to cash in on him for sure. All the injuries, playing players out of position, 10 substitutions, spending money on the wrong players, wrong board members, poor performance on pitch, staff cuts. When does it end, says Steve? And Steve, you've hit the nail on the head. When does it end? It's this endless cycle of bringing someone in, getting rid of them, players not doing this, players not doing that. And then you've got all the cuts, and then you've got all these stories of this and that, and the injuries like Martinez, Ahmad. It's a never-ending cycle, and it's just annoying because I want to be positive, and I feel like I can't be positive until we get to the summer. It is like survive the season, win a trophy if we can to somewhat save our season so we're in Europe next season, and we'll just look forward to the summer and the transfer business, hoping we get lots of players out, hoping we get lots of players in. Like the way this season is going, it's like I'm just looking forward to summer and looking forward to the summer window. And we were like that last year. We basically wrote off a season as quick as it began. Thank you very much for the super chat, Ray. I feel we baiting our hand off to feed the face. We sell Rasmus for Osimhen, then sell our creative players. No, survive for Osimhen. There's one thing bringing in Osimhen, but we need to bring in creative players. Osimhen, Cunha, a midfielder that can progress the ball, a wing back that's attacking 100%. You need Schlotterbeck for me, Cunha, Osimhen, but you'll need a midfielder that's good on the ball and can progress the ball, and you're going to need an attacking wing back to get that creativity to make the most out of it as well. Welcome to the reality of PSR from a Newcastle fan. 3 windows and no signings. Yeah, and you have to sell Elliot Anderson, that's been really good at Forest. Minter also looks like a decent player in it. Also, you got Lewis Miley to come in the midfield with Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali, but I think Elliot Anderson would have really been balanced. I know Joelinton's been good most of the season, but I think Elliot Anderson was a big loss for how good he's been, and Minter could give Murphy a run of games on the right. So Newcastle have been done over a little bit by PSR there, but I feel like Newcastle are going to have a big summer. Something tells me Newcastle United are going to spend big this summer. I feel like Liverpool and Newcastle, because they didn't do anything last summer, they're going to go big. It's quite clear Ineos would have sold Garnacho if they got a fee they wanted, so quite likely they'll push again in summer. I agree. The problem is because of his performance has not been great lately, will we get the fee that we want? United need to start games better, 100%. Man United staying up, teams far worse. Yeah, look, we beat Ipswich, we're 100% staying up. Ipswich beat us, we still probably stay up, but it's a bit nervy. Yeah, I don't know why people say that Cunha's a waste of money. Stop. I watch Cunha most games, and he's unbelievable. Tomorrow, a game United could win. Yeah, we can't take Ipswich lightly. Ipswich is almost like a 6-pointer at this rate. We've got to beat Ipswich. Yeah, if we beat Ipswich, that's a win and a draw. And that's vital points. For me, this season is staying up. If you can we finish in the top half of the table, please, just to save a bit of dignity. And win either the Europa or the FA Cup. Winning the Europa gets us back in the Champions League. But Tottenham have beaten us 3 times this season. If we play Tottenham in a cup final, I think Tottenham beat us. And that's a cup final in Tottenham. And Tottenham don't win trophies. Yeah, that might sound crazy from me. Maybe FA Cup. Actually, I'll show this here. I think we've got a good chance of winning the FA Cup. Hear me out. The problem is, I'm not confident we'll beat Fulham, but I also think we've got a good chance of winning the FA Cup. So this is the FA Cup, yeah. And if we win the FA Cup, at least we're in the Europa League next season. But let me show you this, okay? Villa Cardiff, so you'd assume Villa go through. Palace Millwall, you'd assume Palace go through. Preston or Burnley, I don't know. Bournemouth Wolves. I think Wolves could beat Bournemouth again. I think Wolves will be more up for it, believe it or not. City will beat Plymouth. Of course, City get the easiest team. Newcastle, you think will beat Brighton. United, I hope we beat Fulham, I don't know, and then Forest Ipswich. So you're talking the next round could be Forest United, Newcastle City, I think Wolves, Burnley, Palace, Villa. Like, and we beat City under Amarin. You know, I think there's potential in the FA Cup as well to win it and get back in Europa. But I'd rather win Europa League and get in the Champions League. And also financially, if we win Europa to get back in the Champions League, we'd be in a much better position. Someone said Messi wouldn't score in the setup. I agree. Look, Højlund's not been good enough, and our frontline Garnacho hasn't been particularly convincing. But I'm also aware that you could stick the three best players in the world in our attack, and I think they'd still maybe run into issues. But we need to improve in the attacking areas. We need to improve in terms of wing back and progression. We need to improve in terms of progressing the ball in midfield, but we need a bit more quality in attack. When you're passing the ball to Højlund's feet and his touch is giving it away, it's not good enough. I feel for Højlund. I feel we make his job 10 times harder. I feel his job isn't easy. I don't think a world-class striker, scores 30 goals for us because of the lack of service. But we need improvements there. We need improvements. I mean, Messi probably would score if he played for United, of course. But maybe we've got a chance in FA Cup. We can look at Europa League as well if you want. I think Europa League's more difficult because we're a bit. I know we haven't lost a game in Europe, but we went nearly a year without winning a game in Europe. Do you remember? So if we look at the Europa League fixtures, this is them here. So these are the Europa League fixtures. So look, we should be able to beat Real Sociedad because they've not had the best season. I think we're better than them, but you just don't know with this team. It's flaky. So we've got Real Sociedad next Thursday. We've got so let's say we beat Real Sociedad. I assume Lyon will be CSB. So Man United, Lyon. I think Fenerbahce beat Rangers. Fenerbahce. Tottenham beat AZ. Tottenham. Lazio, Olympiacos. I'm going to go with Frankfurt over Ajax and Athletic over Roma. I mean, it could be, it's, again, we could win Europa, but we can't beat Crystal Palace. We can't beat Brighton in the Premier League. And a lot of these teams are like a Crystal Palace and a Brighton, where you'd expect Man United to beat them, but United can't, and we make it difficult. Lazio, I think, could cause us the most problems. Lazio and Athletic could cause us the most problems. But we've got to beat Real Sociedad. It'd be nice if we could get a Victoria Pleasant and they can beat Lazio in the round of, but yeah, sadly. In April, Spurs will have nearly a full team back. Sorry to disappoint you guys, but a full Tottenham team's a lot better than Man United this season. It is. When Ange had a fully fit team, Tottenham played quite well. I think they won 8 out of 11 games in a row near the start of the season because Ange had a fully fit team. Ange just won 3 Premier League games in a row just because he's got a few players in. And Postecoglou gets a lot of stick, but I've said this many times. When he has his squad mostly fit, he actually does quite well. Alice, thoughts on the goat? Anthony had 5 goal involvements and Rashford with 2 assists. Yeah, shame Anthony got sent off. But Anthony, that assist that Anthony got in his last game was unbelievable. The way he just ran the whole pitch and got an assist. He'd never do that for United. It's crazy, but I think it's just good. I think it's good that Anthony's doing well on loan and Marcus Rashford is doing well on loan because it's, at the end of the day, the reason we sent Marcus Rashford and Anthony out on loan, even though we're lacking an attack, is because Ineos are thinking this will put us in a better place for the summer. If we loan out these players, it will put us in a better position when we come to the summer. It's sort of what Ineos' thought process was, which I somewhat get. How's Malacia done at PSV? Obviously, he's done all right. He didn't start, obviously, against Juventus and anything like that. He's sort of been moulded into the side and they're being a little bit careful with him. He's been coming off the bench a little bit here and there. But I guess he just had those injury issues and all of that as well. But yeah, Real Sociedad have been disappointing this year. But they have some quality players. They did beat Barca earlier. That's the thing. You'd expect us to beat Real Sociedad, but you also can't believe in us to beat Real Sociedad as well. Always various Spanish sides, dodgy record against them for a while. And also, dodgy refs. Whenever we play a Spanish side, the ref is always favouring the Spanish side. And I will say that. I always say referees in Europe favour the Spanish sides to the English sides. And I will always say that even when Liverpool play Spanish sides, the ref does Liverpool over. And I'm saying that as a Man United fan. I know the ref's going to be shocking when we play Real Sociedad. I know we're going to have some dodgy decision go against us. Do you remember, was it last year in Europa League where, Martinez got sent off? Not Martinez. Martinez got a yellow card because the ball bounced off his leg and hit his hand and they gave them a penalty. Pelistri got fouled and then got booked for diving. Martin has picked up like 3 BS yellow cards, so missed the first leg of a game. You know, it was ridiculous, the Europa League last year. Not Europa League, sorry, Europa League 2 years ago. We're in Champions League last year. We never get good decisions as well. Alice clutching at so many straws when analysing cup draws, slightly deluded, understandable maybe, but such a shame United are so poor. It is a bit delusional. But the thing is with United is they've made me delusional because we can be really crap all season and win a trophy at the end of it, like last season. Last season we finished 8th. We deserved to finish 13th if you looked at the way we were playing. We're 15th now, but we probably could finish 13th. But we win a trophy at the end of it. Ruben Amorim can knock Arsenal out with 10 men. Ruben Amorim can beat Manchester City. Ruben Amorim can draw to Liverpool. I'm not worried about the tough games. What I'm worried about is, can we beat Real Sociedad? Can we beat Fulham? Because we're more likely to knock Manchester City or Arsenal out of a competition than we are Fulham or Real Sociedad right now. And that's like a crazy thing to say, but we only seem up for the big game. So I'm not too worried about the final, but it's about getting to the final. It's about the road to the final for me. Was in Villarreal and under Oli, we were so poor in the league that season and they still eliminated us. True. It was so annoying, though. I think Maguire had a good season, actually, and then he sort of got injured, and Lindelof was just dreadful for that game. But let's talk about more news and stories. But there is talks coming out that Man United have agreed to pay 75 million euros for Osimhen, and the deal was 95% done, and that he wants to join United. This is being reported. Osimhen to United has been very heavily reported the last few weeks. I don't know if his agent is using us to get him a move in the summer to get more interest in him, to get more attention. I don't know if we're being used for clicks, but there is a lot of talk about Osimhen and Manchester United. Continuing on. Talks are advancing between Manchester United and Sporting for Giovanni Kenda. George Mendes is directly involved in negotiations. I think this deal could be done quite soon, actually. We are working on a Kenda deal. He wants to come to Manchester United. We want him. Profile-wise, he's good. There's verbal agreements there. The whole Kenda situation is just waiting on Sporting to allow him to go for a reasonable fee. But we're working on this deal early and hoping to get him in nice and early. And I think it's a good signing. But again, with Kenda, I do also think... would I rather a Kirkus come in with someone a bit more experienced, another 17-year-old as well? That's the only thing. That's the only thing. What's going on? Sorry, I've just been sent something. More reports coming out saying that United have had contact with Osimhen. Yeah, but a lot of them are from Turkey. There's a lot of reports from Turkey saying there's United and Osimhen contact, but you just don't know the credibility of it. I don't know the credibility of it as well. Get Xavi Simons. I like Xavi Simons, but I'd rather Cunha. Could the agent be using us? Yeah. I think with the Osimhen deal, I think journalists are using it for clicks and Osimhen's agent's using us. And I don't think the Osimhen deal is as close as being reported. I know that he might want to go to United, but I don't think there's been any agreements there like being reported. And I don't think it's 95% done. I think Osimhen is probably agents using us and maybe journalists making things up for clicks. I think the Kenda situation is ongoing. I think there's negotiations ongoing. I think this is probably most likely to be the next signing. But I think with Kenda, it depends on Sporting and the fee that they would want as well. Osimhen would be the same as Højlund. I think he'd be better than Højlund in terms of his movement, his touch, his hold up. He wouldn't be wrestling. But until we improve the complete squad, he's not going to get service and we're not going to get the best out of him. So this was a report via Team Talk that came out. I don't think Team Talk's a particularly reliable source of information, but I'll include it because people were talking about it. It was said that United will have a limited budget for the summer. They're keeping a close look on free agents. David, Gomez, Tah, Leroy Sané, Calvert-Lewin. I take Leroy Sané in a heartbeat. I take Jonathan Tah. Angel Gomez, I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think he fits the system, if I'm going to be honest. And Jonathan David, he's all right maybe as a backup. Maybe as a backup to Osimhen. At most, but Calvert-Lewin, absolutely not. Calvert-Lewin's an absolutely not. Angel Gomez, I don't know if he fits the system. David, potentially as a backup if we're desperate, but Tah and Sane are probably the two I'd take most there. But I think we probably do have a limited budget for the summer as of now. But I think if you sell Anthony, you sell Rashford, you get Casemiro off your books and you sell Alejandro Garnacho, I think financially we'll be in a very strong position for the summer where we won't be looking at free agents. Every year we get a story that United is broken, they're looking at free agents, and then we never end up signing them. So I'm going to take that story with a pinch of salt. Now, obviously, the most important thing is getting the outs. Luke Shaw has been paid $8 million in the last year, and he's not started a single Premier League game. Mason Mount also makes $8+ million a year to start 5 Premier League games. For me, we've got to look at offloading Mason Mount. We've got to look at offloading Luke Shaw. Their injuries is a big issue. I spoke about this in my video yesterday, but Inter Milan are interested in signing Mason Mount on loan with an option to buy. If Mason Mount is fit, you want him at United because he actually helps us and fits Amra's system. But Mason Mount can't stay fit. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Mason Mount, do not send him out on loan with an option to buy because they're not going to buy him if he keeps getting injured. Permanent deal, obligation to buy. Because if Mason Mount's available, he might as well play for us and not somebody else. Unless you're getting 100%, they're going to buy him afterwards and we get the money for it. So there is talk of Inter showing an interest in Mason Mount and Mason Mount being on the way out of Inter. So being on the way to Inter, there's a few rumours about it. But Man United will probably want a permanent for Mount. I don't know when Mount is back. People are asking me when's Mount back. I don't know. I think he improves the starting 11, but I don't know when he's back. But we have to look at offloading Mason Mount in the summer. I don't think Mason Mount's a bad player. I think Mason Mount, if he could stay fit, would be a very good player in Ruben Amorim's system. But he can't stay fit and he needs to go. Mason Mount and Luke Shaw walk into our starting 11, but they can't stay fit. And they can't walk at the moment. So we have to do what we can to get Mason Mount out and get Luke Shaw out this summer. So if Inter Milan are interested in Mason Mount, we've got to use that to our advantage. Someone said Pogba. I mean, at this rate, we need the bodies, don't we, as well? Mount will never stay fit. No point keeping him. Surely they won't want to buy Mount for a very low price. Yeah, surely they'll want to buy Mount for a low price. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get much money for Mount because he started about 5 games in the last year. He can't stay fit. We spent 55 million on Mason Mount and he can't stay fit. That's the big worry. He's got what Lavia's got. He's got what Reece James has got. He's got what Luke Shaw's got. Interestingly, United's top 5 goal scorers in the Premier League this season: Bruno, Ahmad, Rashford, Xerxes, Garnacho. We've just got a severe lack of goals. If we don't have Bruno and Ahmad, we are screwed because we have a severe lack of goals, and we definitely need a goal scorer. And I think that's where a lot of the Osimhen links have come from. And it was said that Manchester United are concerned that Rasmus Højlund's lack of form will result in them struggling to sanction a permanent departure from Old Trafford when the head coach Ruben Amorim will be aiming to make significant changes to the squad. Apparently, there's reports that we're looking to offload Højlund, but we're worried we won't be able to offload him. If we offload Højlund, we need to get a good amount of money. And the reason we need to get a good amount of money for Højlund is because we're still paying off a large amount of his transfer from Atalanta to United. Now, I think Højlund, it's too early to write him off, even though he's been poor. I think you'll loan Højlund fine. But I think unless you're getting a big fee, we can't really afford to do a permanent sanction for Højlund. And I also think it's not Højlund's fault. I think it is the lack of service. But Højlund hasn't been good enough. It's low on confidence and clearly needs a loan. And we clearly need someone who's more ready-made to come in and do that role. But there is talk of Man United looking to offload Højlund, which could be one to keep an eye on as well. I think Højlund can get better. I think Højlund will improve, but I almost think he needs to leave Manchester United to improve and become a good player. There's still a lot of potential there, but I don't think we're the right environment for his departure and to bring the best out of Rasmus Højlund, which is a shame, but I think it's true. And then last but not least, it was said the United hierarchy remain committed to Ruben Amorim. Ranking officials have stated that while conversations have intensified regarding a sense of alarm with the first team's domestic position and prolonged struggles in a new adapting system. So despite reports that the Man United hierarchy were looking at elsewhere, they were looking at alternatives to Ruben Amorim. It's basically been said that the hierarchy are backing Ruben Amorim. They know it's going to take time. They remain committed to him, and we're not looking too much elsewhere. 6 goals you have to last sometimes. Our top scorer has 6 goals, and we're like 60% through the season. I know. No wonder we're 15th. The reason we're 15th is because we're not scoring goals. Ahmad and Bruno are the only players that can get goals for us. You know, our strikers aren't scoring, and that's the problem. And that's why I look at Cunha and I look at Osimhen and I'm like, that's what we want. But apparently, the hierarchy are committed to Amorim. People are willing to give him time. Oh. There we go. Anyway, listen, people, thank you very much for watching today's live show. I'm going to wrap up the live show here. If any breaking news comes out, I will be back with a video or live stream. I will see you guys tonight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting involved in the chat. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments if you're watching on the replay. See you next time. Bye.